Hello, I am Mudita, and welcome back to Satisfactory. In this tips and tricks video, I want to cover some of the early game parts that require more than one step of load balancing. What I mean by that is some parts such as reinforced iron plates, rotors, and modular frames can be made using only iron. However, that amount isn't split evenly between the two intermediate parts. Even if you prefer manifolds, splitting this step with the correct ratio can help get your factory up to full production a bit quicker. The only alt recipe I'll be using is cast screws. I'm going to start with the reinforced iron plates because that would be the first one out of all of these that you make, and it just kind of makes sense to work our way out from there. It is kind of the easiest one to do. I'm first going to do a realistic example. So this is going to be using 120 iron ore and turning it into 10 reinforced iron plates. And I'm only going to be using the cast screw alternate recipe. I'm just going to do a basic 4-way split. If you found this video, you probably know at least the very basics of load balancing. This just needs one small stretch of Mark II belt. And I'm going to wait to plug that in because that'll get everything started. All the smelters are going to be clocked to 100%. One of the reasons I love the reinforced iron plate default recipe is the ratio you get to work with. Working with 120 iron ore makes this really easy to see. We need 1/4 of our iron ingots going to cast screws and 3/4 going to iron plates. So since it's a 1-to-1 ratio for iron plates, smelters to constructors, let's go ahead and just connect those. And these are also all at 100%. Using the cast screw recipe, I need 3 constructors to make the screws. These, however, need to be underclocked. I need 120 screws in total across the 3 machines, so 40 for each one. Since it's a little bit tight on space, I'm just going to throw these up here. And if you're not sure how close you can put the splitter, one way I like to test it is I just place a belt and as close as I can get it, so it would be right here. This is where I need one of the outputs for the splitters to be. And if I just change it with using the hotbar, you can just set it in the correct spot. And that's as close as we can get with it being a 90-degree angle. You could go up one extra level, and that would just be the default height if you just want to make things easy on yourself, which I certainly cannot blame you. But if you do want to just keep it short like this, you can just grab a stackable, get it in line, and it'll be at the center point of the machine as well. And then from here, you can connect it into the machine. And because we're working with 60 plates and 120 screws, we can combine these all onto one belt. Now my personal preference is to put the busier belt on the bottom, but obviously that is just what I like to do. So I'm going to put iron plates up here on the top. And for the screws, change to Mark II. And these will be at ground level. Go ahead and plug these in. And let's go ahead and set our default reinforced iron plate recipe. Throw down a merger and a storage container. And that's 10 reinforced iron plates. All right, let's watch it. And there we go. The great thing about the amounts we're working with here is as long as we have a full Mark I belt of iron plates and a full Mark II belt of screws, we know those assemblers are getting the exact amount that they need. And this is pretty much how I do the reinforced iron plates each time I'm automating these for the first time. But later on, you may not be working with these amounts, or maybe you're transporting them farther, and maybe you're not doing the smelting and the constructors right next to each other. In that case, you're still going to want to split these things. And with the ratios that we're working with, it's super easy for this recipe. So if you have your initial amount, say we have 480 coming in. What we're going to do is we're going to split that in half. So that would be 240 here. And then we're going to send the 240 into a merger. Then this 240 is going to get split in half. So now we're going to have 120 go here and 120 goes here. So this 120 is going to feed our screw production, wherever that is. And the 3/4 is going to feed the plate production. Reinforced iron plates, I love them. They're fairly easy to do. So let's move on to rotors. And for rotors, to get some nice even numbers and a nice healthy amount, especially in the early game, I'm going to go with 8 a minute, which we can do using only 90 iron ore. So with 90, that means we only need 3 smelters. So this very first step is real nice and easy. We do need a Mark II that'll plug into there, but since I'm using no power, that's going to get started right away. So let's just go ahead and finish everything else first. All 3 of these are going to be at 100%. And now we get into the fun part. So if we look at the flowchart, we need 50 iron ingots to go to cast screws and 40 to go to the iron rods. With such a small amount in the early game, this is pretty easy. I'm going to throw a splitter down into the middle one, and then I will place a merger, and this merger I am going to spin sideways. So we have 30 going into each of these. So if I split this one all 3 ways, that would be 10. So here's our 40. Here's 40. And there's 50. For the 40 line, I need 3 constructors making the iron rods. Except for these are going to be underclocked. I only need 40 rods across 3 machines. That's 13 1/3. Just need 1 splitter. And that can plug straight into there. For the screws, I need 4 constructors. And these ones are all clocked to 100%. With each constructor outputting 50 screws, I can only join up 2 of them at a time. At this point in the game, I would only have Mark II belts, so we're going ahead and just group up these 2 and these 2. In total, I have 40 rods, so definitely only 1 belt. Join all these up. Now I just need 2 assemblers. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to line the outside or the left input with this merger, and then the opposite with this side. That's 100 screws. That's 100 screws. And now I'm going to go ahead and take a splitter. Go up to the 2nd level. And I'm just off by a meter. So, because you can snap to the bottom of them, I'm going to nudge the first one into place. And now these should be able to connect. Terrific. All right. So now all I need to do is create a nice little short lift over here. So we'll get this one going out this way. And that'll be the 40 rods. Just need a merger to bring them together. And can't forget the recipe. So we got rotors. So that'll output 4 apiece. This is how I like to do my first rotor setup. Let's go ahead and plug it up and watch it come to life. And there we go. Thankfully, rotors really don't take too long to get up to 100%. And this is how I would turn 90 iron ore into 8 rotors a minute. I do a very similar setup when I first unlock them. But if you were going to do this in a much higher volume, and say you were having a train drop off everything, let me show you how you could do this split. Working with ninths is really easy. We need one splitter to get it into thirds, and then one more splitter to get those last ninths. And the beauty of this is you've got just so much flexibility. So if I wanted my 4 ninths to go off to the left, I could have it set up like this. And if I wanted the 5 to go, say, straight ahead, I could go ahead and put it, say, up in this corner. And we'll just do the same example. Say we have 480 coming in. We split that into thirds. That's 160 on each one, so that's going to be a Mark III. So there's 1/3, there's 1/3, and there's 1/3. And then with this third, we're going to split it all 3 ways. So now this one has the 4 ninths. Oh, I did that wrong. This one is going to go all the way to the outside. And then from here, we're going to connect these two. And now I have my 5 ninths and my 4 ninths. Last but not least, modular frames. I'm going to go ahead and use this last node right here, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it right now, just so we can fill up this belt, so we don't have to wait for it in a few minutes. As you can see, this starts off very similarly. We're using all 120 ore, so 4 smelters. All clocked to 100%. And we're ready to start this. We'll just connect the belt from this lift to that splitter. So taking a look at the flowchart, as you can see, we've got 3 different things we need to send this to, and they're not completely even. And because I picked 5 modular frames per minute, all of these numbers work out pretty nicely. So this works out real nicely where I can have one smelter right here, be able to feed both constructors that I need for iron rods. These are both at 100%, and that's out of the way. And so this is 90. And now, just like in the very first one, we just need to do a 3-to-1 ratio. Or in other words, 1/4 is going to go to the screws, 3/4 is going to go to the iron plates. We got 90 into here, half goes here, the other half can go over here. And then from this half, here's 1/4, and then here's 1/4. So for screws, I need 2 constructors. We can just go ahead and place another splitter right in front of this one. So here's our 1/4 it's going there, and we can just split that in half. Let's go ahead and use our cast screw alt recipe again. And I need 90 screws across the 2 machines, so 45 for each one. For the iron plates, I'm going to need 3 constructors. And it'll be a little bit easier if I just spin this merger around. Straight building mode, just fantastic. Well done, Coffee Stain. And again, these are going to be underclocked. I need 45, and I'm using 3 constructors, so 15 for each one. A little bit more room to work with now. Alright, let's create those reinforced iron plates. And for this, I'm going to need 2 assemblers. Might as well just center it on this right here. So we'll just go our 2 splitters. Right, and I'm just gonna make my little stubby lifts again. And thankfully these amounts are real low, so we can just use 1 belt for all of this. I'm I'm going to go ahead and put the screws on the bottom belt, so that one needs to be a Mark II into there. The other alternative, because we've got so few machines, leave that there, you could actually just have these go straight into each one. No need to merge them and then resplit them up. 3 to 2. This makes way more sense though. And now I can connect the iron plates, and we're all set. Well, let's set the recipe first. I need 7.5, 2 machines, so 3.75 for each one. We're almost there. One last step. Now I need 3 assemblers to put it all together. So to find out the spacing, I usually just throw on a lift right there, just to find out where I need to put the splitter. Lock that in place. I want that flush. And the reason for it is now we can just make this easy. We'll just go up to the natural height of the lift, and it's going to snap right in. You can hear it click. And now when I just place these, they are automatically going to make nice 90-degree angles. And with the one on the ground, just plug it all up. Straight mode, it really takes a lot of the work out of it, and I'm okay with it. Alright, let's go ahead and bring our iron rods over. And now we can go ahead and send our reinforced iron plates in. Last step, let's set the recipe. This is using the default recipe. Since normally it's only 2 minutes, we need 5 across 3 machines. So 1 2/3. And this is more or less how I like to do my modular frames as soon as I get them unlocked and automated. One last thing to do, connect this belt and watch it come to life. Looks like everything is staying on at 100%. And that is 5 modular frames per minute. You could definitely condense this into a much smaller area, but this right here is why I love load balancing. Just everything continuously moves. And for me, that's satisfying. And like I did with the other 2 examples, let me show you how you would do this if you were scaling this up and say a train was dropping off all of your iron ingots, but you still wanted to split them up between the screws, the plates, and the rods. The first thing I'm going to do is split off the 1/4 from the total amount, and that'll be for our rods. So again, I'll just use a Mark IV belt as an example. So that would be 480. We're going to do half here, half here. That would be 240 on each of those belts. So if we cut that in half, that would be 120. And here would be the 120 for the iron rods. And with the remaining amount, I'm going to do this one more time. Now there's 360 on here in this example. we're going to cut that in half. So one goes into a splitter, one goes into a merger. That would be 180 on each. And then we're going to split that one in half. And that would be 90. This would be the 90 I need for screws. And here's the 270 I need for iron plates. And that's going to do it for this one. So for those of you that are new to load balancing, I hope this helped. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. I am by no means an expert, but I have done quite a bit of load balancing. If you have any suggestions, or if there's any particular recipes or ratios you would like me to cover, please leave them in the comments below. I'll be covering some of the common splits and ratios that I've ran into more than once that aren't quite as easy as splitting it into quarters or ninths. So look forward to that, and thanks for watching.